Discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
And
so
I do support this motion. I think it's a step in the right direction. The City of Victoria and Vancouver are leading in terms of providing a regulatory framework for this medicinal and recreational substance. We may find that we'll have to revise our bylaws once the federal government catches up to us. But at this point, the public in this community do not support enforcement against this activity. Well, they support enforcement against, I think, criminal elements, but by law-abiding citizens who simply want to consume a substance for medical need or for recreational purposes, they don't want a rigorous crackdown, and they don't believe that's an appropriate use of our policing resources. And so these bylaws respond to the reality that marijuana use or cannabis use is widespread. These establishments exist. Our council has indicated we don't want to take a heavy-handed approach, so instead we'll take a regulatory approach to ensure these businesses pay their licensing fees, to ensure there's a community discussion about whether the locations are appropriate in terms of the public hearing process, and to ensure these businesses operate according to a rules-based framework rather than sort of a free-for-all. And so I think we may find we'll need to tinker them. I think there are outstanding questions relating to consuming the product on site. I think there's particularly compelling arguments in the nonprofit societies for allowing people to consume the substance. I think that argument's a bit weaker in the for-profit establishments, where I personally don't see a pressing need to allow people to consume the product. But in these long-standing nonprofit societies that provide a sense of well-being and a community for people with very serious illnesses, I think over time we will want to look to relax the regulations to permit the consumption of the product. So, but that's something, in my view, for another day, unless councillors have something ready to address that one. But I'm happy to support this and move forward.
thank you. So just for clarity for council and the public, we're now commenting on third reading of the cannabis-related business regulation bylaw as amended. So I'll allow comment on that in general, and then I want to draw council's attention to the fact that in the staff report that we've received for this evening, Mr. Coates has another proposed amendment that addresses that loophole that hadn't been closed, that I think that we need to entertain as a council, but I don't want to get into closing loopholes before people have commented in general on the bylaw. So does anyone else wish to comment in general? Yes, council. Thank you. I'm just going to add a few comments. I won't make too many because it's late and we've still got a lot to do. I'm troubled by the suggestion that these places should be open later than proposed because it's kind of like liquor stores. Liquor stores don't close at 7 or 8. So is this medicine or is it recreation? What we're talking about are medical dispensaries. The federal government may legislate recreational marijuana, and when the federal government does that, we will leap to comply with what they're suggesting, but that is not what we're talking about right now. So the notion that you might not be able to get medicine if the dispensary is closed, they're open 7 days a week presumably, and if you're organized, you can get medicine in the long time that they're open. So this comparison between medical dispensaries and liquor stores makes me uncomfortable, I have to say. And to that end, the notion of making a business of providing somebody a medical service to consume also troubles me, because we have a public health care system in Canada, and it should not be private businesses that are providing much needed medical consumption. So I'm troubled by some of the things that I've heard. Recreational consumption, again, that is not what we're talking about tonight. That again will leave to the federal government, but to be very clear, these bylaws are meant to make sure that people have access to their medicine. They are not meant to enable recreational consumption. They are simply not. And so I want to be really clear with everyone who came, particularly the people who thanked us for being progressive, and we are for allowing edibles. We are, I mean, we've gone out on a huge limb on that one. I expect, and I think that council expects, that once these bylaws pass, Particularly, it's the zoning bylaw tonight, and the business regulation bylaw will come into effect on the 22nd, and then will be enforced as of the 23rd. We expect that there will not be businesses, and again, the question of clubs that are servicing people who have a medical need for consuming, that are not making money off of people's medical need, quite frankly, that's another story. We expect that there will not be consumption of cannabis at any of the places that are going to be open as a result of this new licensing regime. That is our expectation, to be perfectly clear, just so we're all clear. Those are the rules. You're thanking us for progressive rules. We expect everybody in this room and everybody beyond this room to follow those rules. All right, that's all I have to say. Hopefully I was clear. Any further speakers? Okay, all those in, oh, sorry, Mr. Coates, we have a few more potentially housekeeping amendments to make sure we're clear. Mr. Coates.
Mayor Helps, members of council. So in the staff report in your agenda package tonight, there are two proposed amendments for council to consider. The first one, Mrs. Velk's got this laid on the screen now. The first one is to make changes to the proposed marijuana-related business bylaw to attend to the license fee, and the essence of this change would mean that the businesses that would distribute marijuana, have marijuana on the premises, aside from the storefront retailers, would also be subject to the $5,000 business license fee.